Good evening. It's so good to see our LifeVantage family here tonight. And we are super excited because it's the end of the month and we have a special presenter tonight. And he happens to be a friend of Carol Roberts. So I'm going to turn the time over to Carol to properly introduce him.
Thank you, Julie. I am super excited. I would just like to introduce my friend, Willis. He comes from a small town of about 200 in southern Utah. And I learned a little bit about him. He was raised in a ranching family with sheep and cattle, and his dad worked for the National Park Service. He graduated from high school and served a mission with his church for 2 years. And during that time, this cracked me up when you said this. He describes his wife as a hot little redhead, which I think is super sweet. They were married and settled in Vernal, Utah. They have four children, three daughters, including a set of twins and a son, and now 11 grandchildren, or mini faves, as I call them around here, and are the light of their lives, which we can all understand. Willis enjoys fishing and packing trips in the wilderness with your horses, hunting, and also snowmobiling. As a career, he spent 35 years in the oil and gas industry in many capacities, and his family's always had livestock and ranches and raised quarter horses and cattle. In 2016, when the oil and gas industry crashed, he chose to separate from the company he was working for and now owns several businesses, including the ranching. And also, he's a recruiter for an Australian company that's launching into the US and to Canada. He's developed a passion for health and wellness, which brought him to our company, LifeVantage. And he sees this as a long-term endeavor. He loves the products, the business, but most of all, the people. And I would agree with that. I'm just going to turn this time over to Willis to share a little bit more of how he became involved with this technology of activation and how he uses it to keep himself and his family healthy, and also shares consistently with others, um, just to be in their best health and to earn not only income, but some pretty sweet incentives. He has won several incentives and an incentive trip through building depth. So I am excited to hear your story more, and I will just turn the time over to you.
Well, thank you, Carol. It's good to see you. She's quite the decorated person herself. I think everyone in LifeVantage has a plethora of pictures of her and shares them all over the world. She is like the role model for all of us, and so love and appreciate Carol. She's just a wonderful, wonderful person, and it's always good to get to visit with her. So when she asked me, I says, what do you want me to say? Just, what you'd share with the first person, or first contact. And I'm like, oh, that'll be easy because I don't spend a lot of time on first contacts. I might spend 10 minutes is a pretty good conversation on a first meeting. And then later she said, about your health journey. Well, it took me a whole lifetime to get that in. And so um, I'm going to expand that just a little bit, unless you want the 10-minute version. Otherwise, I'm going to give you a little more history about me and us, and my wife, and how we got there. One thing that I've always believed in: facts tell and stories sell. Not that I want to sell anybody, but I want you to understand, and I want people to be able to make an informed decision. And I do that when I talk. If you see my hands come up, if you want to shut me up, just handcuff me, and I couldn't speak. But stories is the way I communicate. So if you don't mind, I would like to share my story a little bit and kind of put the LifeVantage in with that, and kind of give you some history there, and hopefully I can get something of value across. My biggest concern is that I waste y'all's time this evening. Time is so very valuable to me, and I just hope and pray that I can add some value. There's a song by John Bon Jovi, and I don't claim to be a singer or dancer, but the lyric goes somewhat like, I'm a cowboy, on a steel horse I ride. That lyric could be written for me. I've loved motorcycles. I still own 11 of them that I use on my farm and ranches. I love to snowmobile, and I've been an avid mountain biker at points in my life. But these habits have cost me. And if I don't want to get off track, so I've written me some notes. So if I glance at my notes, please forgive me. I've kind of been an adrenaline junkie, and it's caused me some problems in life, and I will go into that in just a little bit. How I was introduced to LifeVantage. My son actually come to me and he says, "Are you going to go see your brother tonight?" And I says, "Why? He's in Cache Valley, you know." And he says, "Well, he's coming to town." I says, "Yes." And he says, "Yes. He's coming to tell me and some of my friends about a business that he's in." I said, "Well, is that the only way I'm going to be able to get to see him?" And he says, "Probably so. We're gonna be busy tonight." And so I said, "Well, sure, I'll go." So we went up to the meeting up to one of my son's buddy's house, and my brother, who is a doctor, begins to tell us about how he had been to continuing education, and this doctor from Stage had told him about this new technology that had come out, and he said he couldn't call it by name, but he told him all about it. And then he went on with the presentation. He was being paid by a company to talk about their products, but he wanted to make sure these doctors understood what was coming down the line and what was available. And so he cornered him after the training and says, "Okay, I got to know about this other technology." And he began to teach him about protandem and about activation, and that was his beginning to it. And so he went on with the meeting, told this stuff, and then he done one fatal thing for me that got me and my wife. We were both there. He showed this little 6-minute video, ABC primetime. And when we were done with that, me and my wife were both there kind of with our jaws on the floor. And she says, "We're going to take this." I had seen something else that really piqued my interest. I got to make sure I get it right, because the leadership pool, which was the old, what do you call it? The pie chart bonus, whatever and anyway, the leadership pool is what we know it by now. I'm still having a hard time with some of these transitions of terms. But and that really caught my interest. I had been in a company, and they had a profit sharing program, and I knew that oil and gas company, if I could just get a little tiny piece of what they made, it would be massive for me and life changing. So the opportunity to look at that again was a big deal for me. We came home. I guess I back up just a tiny bit. One thing that he did say, he said, "I tried to tell you about this for a couple of years and you wouldn't listen to me." And I go, "I don't remember anything. You never told me about protandem. You never told me about this video and all this stuff." And he says, "I tried to, you just wouldn't listen." So the point I want to make here is, when you go to share this with people, you must be intentional. Get their attention, make sure what they know what the meeting is about, and get that a point across that it's just not, you're just not visiting, but that you have something that is so important to you, and you have to be intentional and make sure you get that point across. We came home. My son had invited me to the meeting. So he said, "I don't know if I'm going to do it or not." I said, "Yeah, you're going to do it." I signed him up. Then I signed me up that night, all on the platinum pack or whatever it was at the time, on the big pack. And then I signed my wife up under me. So he went 3 levels deep instantly within an hour. on our line, and we kind of went from there. So back up just a few years before that, like when my wife was pregnant with our first child, she developed a condition. It's an eye condition. It's called open angle pigmentary glaucoma. This type of glaucoma is typically found in elderly males, Black males. That's who has it. She was a 20-year-old, fair complected, redheaded female. And we're going like, why in the world could this girl be having something like this? Why this trial for her? Her eyes began to change. She had many surgeries on her eyes and things to try and save her eyesight. They ended up going in and putting what they call a bleb in her eyes. That lets the eyes breathe and the pressure in. And they told her that it would last for maybe 10 years, and then she would have to do it again if they could, and if not, that she would be blind. Go down the road a few years later, and we had more children against the advice of the doctors. And she was probably, now it was probably 20 years down the road. She would have been in her 40s. And the doctor said, you need to hook up with the Utah Blind Society and start learning Braille and train your own seeing eye dog. You're going to be blind soon. And we had an opportunity to meet with some specialists at the Eye Institute on the campus of the University of Utah. And they had a procedure that they was trying, had never been done in the world. It was, at the time, it was a theory. It was an introduction of a drug. No one had never used it on a human. And they said, if you're willing to try this, we're willing to try it on you and see if we can save your sight. She decided to do that. And what she did when she decided to do that, she decided to show up at an event. That was an event in her life. We've all chose to participate in an event tonight. I chose to participate in many events with my motorcycles that changed snowmobiles, and my own mule was the worst wrecks I ever had in my life. And all of those, but those were all events that changed the course of our lives by a decision to participate in something. She participated in that, and we went down the road a little bit, and they said this might work, it might not work. Along comes this meeting that I was telling you about with my brother, and we started taking the product. And they said, well, it's not getting any worse, things are looking better, and here of just a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, if that, we had the opportunity to go in. Her doctor had retired, the new guy had taken over with all the new deal, and he says, we might ought to do that procedure again. And he says, my wife asked, do we have to go back to the U of U to do that again? And he said, oh no, that is an inpatient procedure now. He says, we teach that in eye doctor school, and people all over the world, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people every year get that treatment, and their vision is saved. The reason I bring this point is her decision to attend an event or do something different, scary, something maybe no one else had done, you'd never done everything, changed her life. Years down the road, 30 years down the road, she reaped a blessing that she didn't even know was coming for participating at that time. Not only did she save her vision, but literally the vision of millions of people around the world by participating in an event. Now, do you think that she, with what we know now, we didn't know any of this, do you think she will ever stop taking Protandim or using Icy Bright or vitamin D3 or collagen or fish oil? We know that all those things were contributing factors in that. Now, I can't tell you that it's going to treat, mitigate, prevent, heal, cure, or save you from warts. I can't tell you any of that stuff that it will do it. But I can only tell you what my experiences, what our experiences are. And we know that played a huge factor. And I don't want to take God out of it, the blessings. But I think sometimes, you know, he could go and cure every one of us of everything we had. But I think he needs us to learn to be trust in him, to be humble, and let his plan work through natural means. And lots of times that's worked, that those means are worked through other people, like Carol in my life. And we both feel that we have a stewardship to share this. Now, some of the things that's happened with me, I mean, I've had wrecks. In my late 20s, I totally blew a shoulder out backwards snowmobiling. I had a mountain bike wreck, went over the handlebars on my work on a lunch, going back to work after a lunch break. When I walked in the office, I gathered myself up, broadsided a car. She was in a hurry to get to the liquor store, go figure. Anyway, I gathered myself up, rode my bike onto my office. My boss happened to be there for the day, and I walked in and I says, "Dude, I'm hurting bad. What's wrong with you?" And blood on the outside of my shoulder. I took my shirt off, and he passed out in the office, and they got somebody to haul me up there, and my whole shoulder was separated. It was about 2 inches lower on the shoulder from up the collarbone, and they hauled me in there, and you know, basically there's nothing they could do. I T-boned a four-wheeler, kids riding in the wrong side of the lane, broke another shoulder. I had 9 procedures on my shoulders. I never did hurt my head, but in the meantime, one of those procedures was to have a shoulder replacement. The motorcycle wreck cost me my other shoulder, shattered the humerus head. It needed a replacement. I had wore out the other one. And it's that point that my brother introduced me to LifeVantage, and I watched that ABC primetime. What an effect did it have to me? Through all that, I had gone through therapy so much pain, so much therapy. And I don't do well with narcotics and drugs. I mean, one time my wife found me, I was missing. I had wandered up through the fields. I was about 1.5 miles from the house in a pair of tennis shoes and t-shirt, shorts, in about 8 inches of snow in the dead of winter. And that's where she found me. Actually, the neighbor found me in his garage and brought me home. I don't remember any of it. And she come back, and they found me. They had tracked me that whole 1.5 miles back to the road in the snow. So I didn't do well. But I got Protandim, I was on it, and within about 3 days, my pain was down, my swelling was down. I felt so much better. And I'm here to tell you that of all that trauma that I've had, that shoulder replacement that I had on Protandim, because it is an anti-inflammatory, which is pain. It's anti-fibrotic, which is scarring and scar tissue and those kinds of things. And it's an antioxidant that we talks about so much. And I'm here to tell you that out of all the trauma and having 2 shoulder replacements on my right shoulder, that's the best shoulder that I have. And I know it's because of the anti-fibrotic properties of that product. I am so grateful for that and what it has done for me. I continued to use it. When I signed up with that pack, I had 0 interest in building the business. But what started happening, it's when I realized that I might be onto something. I come home and my kids come home, we were branding cows, and then I see my wife and my kids over there and they're talking, and I said, "What are you guys talking about? You're talking about me. I can tell you, because they always leave me out of when they're saying stuff about me, and it's kind of like a secrecy thing. I don't know. But anyway, I said, "What are you doing? You're talking about me." And they wouldn't speak up. And finally, my wife says, "Yes, we're talking about you." The kids was just telling me how much different you are. Your demeanor is better. You act better. You don't get mad. You don't get upset. You're not trying to beat the cows to death with sticks and everything, trying to get them down the chute, one thing another. And that's when I realized that there was really a difference. And we're down the road a couple years on the product. Then I had my friends and associates and neighbors start saying, "What are you doing? You're just a different person. You're just different. What are you doing?" I'm not doing nothing different. I'm just ordinary old farmer me. And no, and I said, "Well, there's this one thing. What is it?" And I said, "Oh, it's just something I buy online. It's just e-commerce." And finally they pinned me down and say, "Well, where do you get it?" And I says, "Well, I buy it from myself. I have a link." And, "Well, can we get it from you?" And I says, "Well, I guess if you want to, it's up to you." And so I had them start. People just started. That's the way I got started in actually using it for a business. And so I started seeing difference in me. And so I decided that I needed to embrace it. And so when the oil and gas industry was tanking, probably about 8 years ago, and I decided that I didn't want to stay with the company and move wherever in the world they wanted me to go, that I would separate. And that's when I really grabbed a hold of LifeVantage and started going to work. I found success immediately within about the first, I'm going to say probably about 40 days. I hit Pro 4, and I really haven't looked back. I wish I could say that I was consistent, but I am up and down, and I let distractions get in my way, and so I've struggled a little bit. It's my own fault. So as far as my story and how I got there, that's how I got there, and that's how I got going. I don't spend a lot of time talking about products. What I've told you about products is about as much as I say. And how I come to this conclusion, I had a girl under me that was just about ready to break Pro 4. She was within about $700 of making Pro 4. And I said, "Lisa," her name's Lisa Reese. I says, "Lisa, you're doing the meeting today." And she says, "No, I'm not doing the meeting." I said, "Why won't you do a meeting?" She says, "Because every time you talk and you give the meeting, I learn new stuff every time." And that's when I go, aha, you have to simplify. You've spent hundreds of hours studying and researching once you grabbed a hold and learning what it is, but you try and tell it all at the same time. So I actually joined this little group. I went to the one after Marcel's house was in Gillette, and I was invited to that one. And they had these little things. Maybe you've seen something like this, a tear-off sheet. That tear-off sheet saved me, and I was able to start teaching people because I didn't divulge too much, and I didn't tell them every peer review study and everything. So what I do, I tell my story, I give that information, and I share them some videos as they need. Now, if they ask me questions, all bets are off because I'll answer the questions, and I sometimes get fired up and I get passionate. And yeah, just have to say, okay, it's midnight, you need to go home and go to bed now. Not really, but anyway, I always share the ABC primetime. Number one, ABC Prime every time. Every time ABC primetime. I love the Dr. Dixon video where he during COVID he done one from corporate that is the history of LifeVantage. I love that video. I love the collagen video. I share the Tri-Synergizer a lot. Dr. McCord's old video on synergy. I love that one. It's just a little short 3-minute video, but it explains Protandem, the ingredients, how they work together in synergy. I also make sure that I share my webpage with people. And I make sure that I write that down for them. I do not leave that to for them to figure out, because what they do is they misspell it, they misspell my name, whatever they do, and they get frustrated, and so they go on to world famous Google and they Google Protandem or LifeVantage. It pulls up corporate, they go on it, and I've had so many, I learned it the hard way, I've had so many people that go on and order product through corporate off of the corporate webpage. And then I go back and say, well, where are we at? Yada, yada. Well, I ordered that a couple of days ago and I didn't see anything come through. And so I learned that one the hard way. Always share your webpage, write it down for them. And not, if they don't, they'll talk to their friends about it. And then well, this is where he told me to go. And that's been very helpful to me. One other thing, before I leave this topic, I did have this summer, I had a little bit of a heart condition. I had an arrhythmia going on. And when that was kind of coming to the end and we were getting that figured out, I asked my cardiologist, I said, Doc, I don't ever want to go through this again. There was times I thought I was dying. It was bad. And I says, what's one thing that I can do to make sure this doesn't happen? He says, there's not one thing, there's 4 things. And it's consistent with this 4 things. Very simple, kind of, unless you're me, then it's not so simple. Stay hydrated, drink lots of water. Number 2, get plenty of sleep. You got to be rested. Reduce stress in your life and eliminate anxiety. Quit worrying, especially about things you can't control. He says that is the secret to your heart condition. It has nothing to do with your physical body. That's basically the electrical side of your body. My regular doctor, in trying to figure out what was the problem and why I was having the condition he said, you haven't had any tests for a long time. He said, I want to do a complete blood panel on you. I want to know everything about you and your blood workup and what's going on in your body, and maybe we can get to the bottom of this. And I told him, Doc, I'm fine that way. I know it's not it. I convinced him that if I let him do every blood test, whatever he wanted to do to me, because I'd been trying to talk to him about LifeVantage and Protandem, because we're the same age. He's had open heart surgery a couple times, about died, and he just wouldn't listen to me. And I said, I made a bargain. And I says, I'll do that. I'll pay for it. If the results come back the way I think it is, you have to look at LifeVantage. You have to look at Protandem. And if it doesn't, I will never speak a word for you. Luckily, I'll speak a word to you again about LifeVantage. Luckily, I was not home when he called with the results of that test. So if you'll allow me, I have a little clip of what happened, because this is where I'm at today, unmedicated. Well, I have that little teeny heart pill now that is just kind of sitting there in the background because I haven't really. But this is the doctor's report, and I do play this to most of the prospects. They say, "What has it done for you?" And this I don't have to say anything. It's kind of like the ABC Prime. It's my personal ABC Prime Time, and I hit play. So this is what the doctor told me.
I just want to let Willis know that his lab work came back and looks really good. So chloride are normal, glucose is normal, mildly elevated blood urea nitrogen at 31, normal creatinine at 0.9, so kidney functions are good, liver enzymes and liver functions are good, total protein and albumin are good, hemoglobin A1C is good, total cholesterol 172 is good, thyroid functions are normal, free T4 0.85, TSH 2.6, PSA is good at 0.665, and the complete blood count showing bone marrow function is totally normal. So, taking your magic stuff, your program, I'll take a look at it. You're doing well. Thanks.
Yes, I won. That made me so happy. And the doctor had to look at it. So my health journey, that's where I am today. And that is my recent blood work. And for an old broken down farmer retired oil field guy, I feel pretty dang good about it. I am extremely grateful, and I have been blessed tremendously because of the products. But that's really all I say about the products, because your body is going to be different than mine. And all we can really say is that it reduces oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days in 100% of the people that take it. And that's what we can really say. Other than that, I can only teach you or tell you what my experiences are. Okay. So from there, I mentioned about some events in my life that led us to here and how we got here. And especially in my wife's condition, her decision to attend an event changed the course of so many people's life and give them sight, literally. Some things I learned when I started going to building depth that I made reference to. I learned some principles. One, I learned that you got to be consistent, which I am not good at. 15 or more presentations a month, attend all events, and I've tried to emphasize, hope I got it across, events are so important. You never know what event in your life is going to change your life, either for the good or better, or have an impact on so many other people's lives. Events are the ticket. You have to be coachable and teachable. Don't quit. They will teach you, give them 2 to 5 years. Don't quit. And then probably one of the most important principles in life in general is integrity. Always do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to do it, you do it. There's just not another option other than to follow through. And those are just so important. I'm not an elite yet, and I'm still want that leadership pull. That's big. Do you guys really understand how big that is? Leveraged residual income. That is a big deal. So I want to talk just a second about building depth, or the MVP. Carol brought that up. Yes, I leave this weekend and I'm going to Cancun on a paid trip for building depth to be with all the elites and the other winners, and we're so excited. It's so cold in Vernal right now. We live in a valley in the inversion, and it's cold, and it's going to be so warm. And the beaches and the palm trees and the good food and the great company, it's just going to be incredible. So MVP, how did I get there, and what does it take? I've won a few times. If I was consistent, it's one thing I can do is I can talk to people and maybe talk too much a lot of the time. But I got one. I pulled out one of my that actually this is the MVP tracker sheet for the trip that I'm fixing to leave on this weekend. So if you can see it here, I'll kind of pull it back. This side right here, that's the presentation. So from here down to right here, that's 100 presentations. That's the most presentations they will let you get points for. That's 100 points. This third row over, fourth row over right here, that's the people during that month, during that 3 months, during that quarter that I signed up. I signed up 31 people during that quarter. What is there? 3 of them. You got points for the elite pack. I got, or the big pack. I can't remember what it's called now, but I got 3 of the big, the rest of them were customers. If you look at events, I think that's it right there. I got every point available for events. I attended everything. Get on the calls, absolutely everything. And somewhere along in here, I can't read it backwards, it is like 805 points. That's what I got. And that right there, activity over 3-month period, is what landed me this trip to Cancun. Now, if I would do that all the time, I would be far into the elites, but I don't. And so I have to fix that about myself. I've created a life where I am just so busy and made decisions. I don't know what to drop to get there because I love farming and ranching. I've been doing it as a paid away from home since I was 9 years old. My first job, 2 nights and 3 days a week away from home, farming and ranching along with my family. But that's what it took me to win. I've won some with about 300 points in the top 10, but that's what it took to get me on the trip. MVP is a big deal. I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, that is probably the number one thing a person can do and learn in the activities to build your business, because it's hands-on. It's really, it is the do part of it. This is what you need to do, and all the elites tell you that. And have no stake in building depth at all, but I will say that from what I've seen, those who do it and stick with it, it is, if there's any one magical tool, which there's not, it's those behaviors. You just got to do it over and over and over. Be consistent. Don't quit. 15 or more. Yada 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 yada. We can all repeat it. It's like the Sunday school answers. Everyone gets them. They just plug in. That's right for everything. But so that's what we do. Also, during that activity, I showed you this. That's what got me to a diamond seller during that same time period. Just doing do the work. And that made me, what did diamond seller do for me in that activity? As far as from a financial aspect, during that quarter, I added about $1,250 to my paycheck with the diamond seller and all that activity. What does that do? And there was on the old activity sheet, there was a piece on the back that was probably one of my favorite parts of the deal. So when you look at an SC2, between an SC2 and a 3 and a 2 and a 3, there was the chart, and it tells you if we're talking about leveraged income, that pay, you need $636 a month in the bank. You have to, for that, excuse me, I'm saying it wrong, $636 a month leveraged income, residual income. In order to make that, you have to have $127,000 in the bank making 6% interest. In order to get that much there, you have to save $833 a month for 9.5 years. Most people can't save 50 cents, let alone $833. What that activity did to me, it put me between an MC2, MC1, and an MC2. In order for that kind of an income, which is at about $2,900 a month, $584,000 in the bank at $833 a month saving for 25 years, you can get the income after 25 years that I got in 3 months. That's powerful. That took 25 years of savings. That's a long time to be saving $837, and I accomplished that in 3 months. Okay, and we can go on from there. But I'm telling you, life. That's why I say LifeVantage is what I see as my ticket for the long term. And I tell you that because we've been in a severe drought here. It's been hard on my operations. COVID was brutal, and financially, it's been a wreck. I've learned so much, and I am so grateful for everything that I've learned. Carol and I kind of had this conversation a little bit the other day, and I'm learning, and I hope I'm not a knothead and too hard-headed to learn. I hope not to be. But I'm confident that I'm learning what I need to learn to be the best version of the person that I possibly can be. And I'm willing to take whatever's sent my way so I can learn what I need to know. But as far as what I know and what I see from a health, wealth, and the most important thing in our lives is people. Our spouses, our children, our relationships with, I have a good relationship with Carol. I love Mark Harris to death. The man is a rock star. And I love to listen to him speak. And so I see this as a big opportunity for me, and I love to share it with people. And sometimes it's scary and hard. It's not hard for me to talk to people. That's part of what I do now from all over the world. Talk to many strangers a day about everything. But there's so many other people that's looking for something. They're on their knees and they're praying and they're looking and they've got hope. And I believe that if we're trying and we're doing our best, that Jesus Christ will use us as tools in his hands to meet all of our needs. We just have to be willing. We have to open our mouth, have to speak, and we have to let him take control of our lives, turn it over to him, and not just say, okay, you got the wheel, and then peeking around the corner to make sure he's not taking a nap. We have to trust that he's really there and doing it. But it's there. They want it. We just have to speak. But with that, I've rattled on for a long time. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Carol. And I hope I've added value in some way to your time. I don't take that lightly. But Carol, thank you, and I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Man, so many great things that I have notes that I was jotting down as you were speaking. So I am just grateful for your willingness to share with us tonight. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime.
And I'm going to turn it back to Julie.
Yes, Willis. Wow. Powerful, powerful stories, both with the product and the business. And, I just love so much of what you shared. I too have some notes that I took, lots of golden nuggets, and we appreciate those so much. And I love your heart, just your heart to serve and to help other people and to follow what the Lord is directing you to do. I totally agree with you that there's so many people that are just praying and looking for this kind of opportunity. And we just, we have something very valuable and special in our hands, you know, to offer people. And there's so many people that still don't know about it and, you know, will be helped by it. So it is definitely a special gift that we have. So thank you so much for sharing. I guess for the sake of time, we're not going to do Q&A tonight, but I just want to thank everybody for joining tonight. So with that, I guess we'll close out for tonight. Thank you again, Willis. It was an honor and privilege to get to hear from you tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.